As collectors and professionals in the industry, we see a lot of different items coming through. We know where everybody's putting their money, but I think it's time where we let everybody know where we're putting our money. What are we investing in? And before we get into that, please click the subscribe button, hit the like, add some comments, let us know what you want to hear us talk about. But today, hopefully, we're going to add some value to you by telling you where we're putting our money.
The best comment gets a signed and inscribed Dave 12-pack Amerman baseball.
Wow.
I don't even think you were ready for that.
Luckily, that's not going to cost me any money, but guys, that might be a place to start looking to throw some money in there. Well, Carlo, we usually kick it off with you, but today we need to hear Ryan,
from
the money machine.
The kid
putting his good heart,
everything he touches, baby. Everything he touches turns to gold.
All right, Krups. Let's start with some maybe affordable options for some viewers.
No, I think for the easiest buying abilities to go into any market is buying people who you know something big's about to happen. So I have two things I always stick to. One, it's a player who has to prove himself, who I think is going to prove himself.
Byron Buxton.
True. Could be Byron Buxton, could be an Anthony Davis, could be a Saquon Barkley. It could be people that you think that right now have that competitive edge, have that competitive spirit to say, like, look, they've been battered down and their markets are not that good right now. But in their own minds, they know who they are and they know they have to prove a lot of people wrong. So that's the guys. Maybe it's a contract season coming up. Look what Aaron Judge did. He came out of nowhere where his past couple seasons been okay, but he knew he had so much to prove this year, and he's having one of the greatest seasons of his entire career. And I think if people saw that ahead of time, that's where you can make a lot of money. My other thing is, of course, kind of buying people that you know. Maybe a guy's about to be in the Hall of Fame in a couple years. Maybe a guy like Albert Pujols. If you bought his market a couple months back, he knew he was going to get into the 3,000th hit club. He was going to do all of these things. He's going to be a Hall of Famer in a couple years. Like, people are kind of reminiscing again on Albert Pujols, even though he's had 5 really down years where he hasn't performed to the level he normally does. All of a sudden, 11 years possibly. But all of a sudden, people are now remembering how great he was. And once that name is back out there and people are looking at highlights and kind of getting their emotions back involved, that's when prices start to spike. So I always look at things that are pinpoint things in the market that will happen in terms of notoriety or attention on a player, and that's what drive prices.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're talking more about the player.
Sure.
And that makes sense. But what about what type of items are we investing into? What sports? What are the things that they should actually be looking at? What are things that you guys are actually looking at buying? Is it rookie cards? Is it autographed memorabilia? Is it game used? Is it unopened wax? Yeah. Is it...
Dave, you're asking a lot of questions.
Give me an answer.
Give me an answer. You give us something.
You're the master.
Let's shift from player. Let's just go into maybe more topic. I'm seeing game used bats, game used jerseys, Hall of Fame caliber players, and even before, those are always climbing up, it seems, right? Yeah. So that is one investment. If you're looking for the long hold, I'm recommending getting into some game used early on some of these guys, and not these young guys that are asking 5 figures on these game used jerseys. Look at the mid-tier guys, maybe a Pujols a few years ago, although, not mid-tier, but look at the guys who are up and coming and on that path towards Hall of Fame careers. Mm-hmm. And then maybe they're having a down year. I'm looking at Trout when he's injured last year. I was looking at Miguel Cabrera over the past few years when no one's really talking about him. I'm not looking at a guy who's just started in his career. I was looking at Hall of Famers before they get inducted. That's always a big one, and trying to catch them a few years before they get in. Craig Biggio years ago and Bagwell and some of those guys were like, you're buying Craig Biggio game jersey for $700. Now it's probably a $5,000 plus jersey, so they just continue to appreciate. So for me, I'm buying tons of rookie cards. I'm buying tons of high end. I am bullish. I know people are like, oh, we know we're in this for the long run, right?
Yeah. Of
course. So I'm always going to take advantage of items that one time sold for $100K that I can get for $20K and things like, because I always know it's going to come back. So I know I'm all over the place here, but I'm strong in all different topics. I'll buy rookie cards. I'll buy game used, but I just feel like game used memorabilia is so undervalued right now. I feel like that's really the way to go. And obviously high grade gem mint rookie cards of, borderline potential Hall of Famers that have played at least a few seasons. So I need to see something from them first. Sure. What about you, Carlo? What are you buying besides houses? Congratulations.
Look, I'm going to go as broad as you can. To me, buy rarity, right? Buy the rarest, best card of someone that you can afford. Because at the end of the day, when that player gets better, your card's going to appreciate the most. Find something that you don't see every day, right? Study pop reports. Hey, this is a low pop card of this great player. That's the one that's going to go up. Don't buy the stuff you see every day. To me, rarity always wins. So, see what your price range is, find the rarest item you can of that player, and go after that one.
I think that's a great point. I think that's what kind of separates Goldin from a lot of different places. If you have like an eBay, that's more common cards. You're going to see cards that are on eBay that are readily available, and they just sit there hoping that someone bids on them. But if actual cards come to Goldin, these are cards you don't hardly see ever. So when they come to market, people know that they got to go as high as possible because they're not going to have a chance to get that card again. So I think rarity is really important.
There's a few guys I work with. It doesn't matter what the market's doing up or down. They always show me a card that you haven't seen in a few years in a high grade. I'm just like, wow, when was the last time that sold? It's bulletproof. So, it's rarity. Like I said, study the pop reports, find the best patch, find the cleanest auto. Like, you got to go next level on that stuff. But at the end of the day, rarity wins, in my opinion.
So being specific, what are you buying right now?
I'm trying to pay off a house right now.
No, I'm saying if you had to buy something.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, for me,
I'll tell you what he's buying. He's buying garbage pail kids stickers. He's buying He-Man stickers. I've seen it.
I love He-Man.
I've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
He buys a He-Man riding. What is it? What's the guy riding the tiger? What is that?
Dave, you're way off.
What is it?
You're getting way off.
We're
They're the guy riding the tiger. Dude, listen, I'm looking at some guys. We've talked about this, man. I think Shaq's super undervalued. Like, you gotta. There's so many studs in the '90s that obviously the junk wax era, so they're overproduced. Dude, if you dig in deep, you can find rare cards at low pops for some of these guys that people don't know about yet. It's going to explode.
How about you, Dave? What are you buying?
I like non-sports stuff too.
Yeah.
So do I.
Carlo buys Nintendo cards, actually great. And some of the early Nintendo cards I've noticed. I'm all over. I'm looking for good deals ever. Right now, I still love VHS. I love ungraded VHS. I like it because the grade adds that much value. If you could find raw 10 grade cards all over the place for $10 a piece, and you knew if they got 8s and 9s, they're worth $300-400. Why wouldn't you buy dozens of these things?
Yeah, I mean,
right?
Dave, your office looked great. I saw the wall of Little Mermaid VHSs, and it was impressive.
Those are the rare. The rare
variant. I got
variant. You. Yeah, I had to stock up. Well, my daughter's name is Belle. Yeah. My daughter's name is Belle, so we have a stack of Beauty and the Beast VHSs. Man.
I'm Gaston. Yeah,
bring the Mario cards over, and we'll have a play date, man.
Like I said,
so you like high graded rarity?
Rarity.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. I think. Go ahead.
So it's going to come down to deciding, though, right? Because not everyone has Krupa money, we'll call it, right? So for me, when I'm in an auction and I'm bidding on 20 things, they're all similar. That's when I have to then start narrowing them down and say, okay, this one has 87 in pop. This one has 5, right? Then, but what I'm also looking at is what sport are they in? If it's between baseball or basketball, I'm probably going to have to go with basketball because I know the international appeal, kind of the trajectory of the sport. So I'm weighing out all those, and I'm kind of taking things off the table, and I'm then stuck with, rare, valuable items that are in a sport that's taking off. So now I'm looking at F1 and tennis and things like that. I continue to look in that direction. I think baseball and basketball, we can continue to grow, but I think the growth we're going to see in some of these international sports is going to be outrageous.
Yeah, I think I agree with that for sure. And I also think a cool way to look at it, kind of like you said, pop reports, look at pop reports of grades. Whereas if the gap between a PSA 10 and a BGS 9.5 is so wide, eventually that gap is going to be closed. So perfect example of the Jeter SB foil. A PSA 10, you're looking at 600,000 plus. A BGS 9.5 True Gem, you're looking at maybe 25 grand. That's a crazy gap that over time, of course, it's never going to be on that level of a PSA 10, but how are you going to tell me that something that is both gem mint, one's 600,000, the other one's 25,000? Like, to me, of course, that's a high price point to even buy into still. I'm just saying, look at those across the board of any grade. If there's low pop reports of a player who has, 10 great rookie cards, but 9 of them are graded by PSA and only one's graded by BGS, go for the BGS route, go the route, or go to the PSA route if it's vice versa, where there's not many of that player in that grade, so you're buying a rare item in a graded holder that's already, there's not many of them out there, so you're kind of transitioning into how do I close that gap? You're kind of like anticipating where the market's going to go in a lot of ways.
What do you feel, though? I was thinking about this the other day. What do you guys feel on buying things really more for the grade and the value of that grade versus, right, the actual rarity of the card, right? So like vintage cards, there's only
you gotta
10
go grade.
of these. There's only 10 of this really rare vintage card. You know, that might be really appealing. Whereas, are we buying a BGS black label, even though it's a common card that sells for $20 a pop? Do you really want that one of a kind black label? But is that black label really rare? Is the other question. Yeah, it's a rare grade, but anytime another one can pop. I understand that with pops, anything can happen there.
Sure.
But for me personally, I don't just want the grade. Yeah, I'll go for like a 9 or a 10, or maybe I'd rather get the 10 or the 9.5. But are we going to go to the next level, BGS 10, and then black labels? I mean, how much weight are you guys putting on that? When, because remember, these things can become damaged over time. You know, I've seen holders crack. You know, I've seen things. Are you guys really putting a lot of emphasis in black labels and things like that? Or are you, hey, if it's a gem, it's a gem? How much weight do you carry on that?
I always go by the card, to be honest with you. Sometimes I don't even go so much by the grade itself. I mean, even with vintage cards, you can see some PSA 1 Mickey Mantle rookies that are incredible, like eye appeal wise, versus like a PSA 4 that kind of looks crappy, it's off center, whatever the case may be. Sometimes I'm going the PSA 1 route just because of the eye appeal, and I think long term, bang for my buck, that PSA 1 is going to be worth more than the PSA 4 off centered with damage to it. So I think it depends also, like, kind of on what kind of card you're buying.
I know a guy that was collecting vintage PSA 8 cards, and I always thought, you got the money.
Why
aren't you buying nines? And I'll be honest, this guy's collection is worth a zillion times more than when I met with him, a decade ago. And I'm like, wow, all these Bill Russell rookies and 8s and stuff like that he had all the early mantles and 8s. Genius. Right. Centered 8, you know what? Like, that's okay, so maybe that's the direction. I mean, I'd love to. Unfortunately, vintage gets very expensive when you get to the 8s and 9s, and more than ever.
Why? It's rare.
Right.
Just once
I'd
again,
love to stock up.
You just gotta go for rarity. Find your favorite player. Find the rarest card, the one you can afford. That's the one. I mean, that's the one that's going to last the test of time. Up and down, it's not going to matter. That's it. That's the answer.
Sure. He's got the only Thundercats PSA 10 sticker I've ever seen.
Come on.
Everyone.
I'm sorry.
I know I could go on all day. Do you have anything?
No. I'm waiting for you to wrap it up, brother.
Okay. Well, look, we might need a part 2 because there's a lot more stuff I'm buying. I couldn't even tell you. I just go in there, I bid like crazy. But guys, tell us what you are buying right now. We'd love to hear some of your ideas. I'm sure we can add some value there. Don't forget, click the subscribe button. Tune in every week. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.